Hi everyone, welcome to Inking on the Fly with me, Amy Jasper. Today I want to share this very cool card design with you. This is a card that I found through another demonstrator named Julie Davidson, and she simplified a card that she saw on Mixed Up Crafts. So that's sort of the origin of this. Not sure if Mixed Up Crafts came up with it initially or if they got it from somewhere. Who's to know? That's kind of how these things work. We find something we like and we work with it and make it our own. The card base is basically what Julie Davidson shared on her blog. And it is designed in such a way that when these sides are folded in, it will fit in a standard card envelope, an invitation sized envelope. But then when it's open, it can stand like that, and it looks kind of like, they call it a tower, a panel tower card. So it kind of stands like that. So I think it's pretty cool. It's a unique layout, and so that's pretty exciting for me. So I'm going to show you how to do the card base, and then you can follow me with all of the decorating that I did with this. Stamps and supplies I'll share with you as we go along so that you know what I've used. Okay, so to start, we need a piece of, for this card I used basic white thick cardstock. So this cardstock, let me make sure that I have cut it correctly. Yes. So this is 8 1/4 long and 5 1/2 tall. And I will give you I've got to grab my tools. So we're going to do some scoring and some cutting to create the fancy folds on this design. So if you have a simply scored tool like I do, it's a great way to do cards like this because you just place your paper in there and you score away without having to shift or move anything. So it's quite handy that way. And I like the simply scored tool, gives you some nice deep impressions in your cardstock, which I also like. So you can use it not just for folding, but also for decorative techniques, which you've probably seen me do in some other videos. So on the long side, the 8 1/4 length side, I just went ahead and scored 3 score lines 1 inch apart. Or sorry, yes, three score lines 1 inch apart. So at the 1 inch mark, at the 2 inch mark, and at the 3 inch mark. And you could carry on and do 3 on the other side, not moving your paper. So if you were to do that, you would have one at 7 1/8, one at 7 1/4, 6 1/4, and 5 1/4. But for symmetry and everything, I like to flip my paper around and just score the other side exactly the same as I did the first side. The reason I do that is because I do find that my scoring tool seems to be off by just ever so slightly. It's just a little bit off the farther I go along. I'm not sure why that is, but it just is what I've noticed. So I'm going to do the same 1, 2, and 3 on the other side. And it's really hard to see with the white cardstock, so I almost want to go and grab another color. Okay, so I have gone ahead and grabbed a piece of crumb cake cardstock. You can see it a little more easily, but for this card we will be using the basic white. But I will carry on and show you the cutting and everything with the craft, because then you can see those score lines just a little bit better than on the white. So again, we've got the three score lines on each side. So that's our scoring that we've done. So I can put this down. And then I can take my paper trimmer And I'm going to do some cuts. The cuts are going to go from the 1 inch mark, the 1 inch score line, to the 3 inch score line. And I'm going to do the cuts at 1 inch and at 2 inch. And that's on both sides. So we'll start with the 1 inch. And with these sliding paper trimmers, they make it super easy to do this. So I can look at my measurements, or I can just see where my scoring has been done. And starting at the 1 inch, score down to the 3 inch. And then I can lift that up to lift my blade so that I can move the blade down to the bottom to do the same. So this one's at, well, it works out to be 5 1/4 to 7 1/4, but I can just see, I don't have to use the measurements necessarily. I can see where my score lines are and line up my blade with that. So then I can move this over to the 2 inch mark on my paper trimmer, and I can start at the bottom and do from the bottom score line to that score line there, and again the 3 inch score line up to the 1 inch score line. So then I have those 2 cuts, top and bottom, and then I can flip it just like I did on my scoring tool and do the same. And flipping it also allows me to not have to measure and remember measurements. I just know it's 1 inch and 2 inch, and everything's in 1 inch increments, which is what Julie Davidson, that was one of the things she changed from the original design, is she made it simple with all these, the measurements just being so much simpler and fewer cuts. Okay, so there, now you can see we have these cutouts. So it looks like that. Okay, so if you were lucky enough to get a kit from me, all of that cutting will have been done for you in advance. Yay! But yeah, you're going to want to make more, so you'll want to know how I did that, right? Okay. So then I am going to carry on with the crumb cake card base to show you how to fold this, because it will be easier to see by watching with the crumb cake, because you can just see the lines better. So when we fold it, I'm going to put the sample up top here so you can kind of see it up in the corner, but we want to have these blocks on the sides, the 3 blocks on each side, and the wings, if you will, are going to end up being parallel. So if you pay attention to all of everything's very squared off when it's all finished. So all 90-degree angles at the end. So what we're going to do then is fold the bottom panel is going to fold up to us, and then the one below it, or above it, sorry, is going to fold down and up and down and up. So that's how we're going to go. So then you kind of want to work it slowly. We have score lines everywhere, so if we end up just folding everything, you're going to end up with it a little wonky. Well, it'll just be not as, if this folds, it'll be harder to keep its shape, I would think. So do you see what I'm doing there? I'm folding all of those things. I'm just kind of working them into position, keeping these panels straight across. So I don't want to fold it on those, there's score lines there, but I don't want to fold it there. Same with the inside panel, there's score lines on these 2 right here, but I don't want to fold it there. Those are going to stay straight. Okay, so then I can work that over like so. And once I have it folded how I want, then I can commit to those folds with my bone folder or whatever tool you have that can make those creases nice and crisp. like that. So then you end up with all 90-degree angles, which gives you that kind of tower thing going on through the middle there. So another way that maybe will confuse you, I'm not sure, but another way to kind of work the folds, another little tip, I guess, is to kind of thread something like a pencil or your bone folder through so that you know which is going to come forward and which is going to go backwards. And that will just help you, and maybe it won't, maybe it will confuse you, but it will just help you to get things moving the right direction. Maybe, maybe not. I found it helpful. So yeah, so then you've got, again, the top panel. There's no fold there, no fold in the middle, and no fold at the bottom. These three are folding forward, and these two are folding back. And there's no folding on this crease score line here, and no folding on this score line here, but these are folding, helping us create those 90-degree angles. So that's how that's made. So I'm going to just do that again quickly with my white piece because that's what we're actually using for the card. But this gives you a better idea of what it's supposed to look like just because of it's easier to see the shading and the shadows and everything. So I'll put that aside and do the same with our white piece that we actually want to use. And once you know how this folds, it's so quick. Like this is quite a fast, for as far as fancy folds go, this one's pretty fast. I've been doing so much bone folding that I'm getting a red spot on my knuckle because I rest that on the table. It's starting to hurt. I'm gonna have to put like moleskin or something on there to protect my poor little pinky finger. There. So easy. Just so easy. It's ridiculous how easy that is. So the back looks like that. You can, I'm not going to decorate the back, but you could add some panels here. And this is a nice place to write because you can actually open it up flat and then write in there. And then that's going to be a nice, the back of your card kind of. And then we just need to decorate it. So to make this become this, we're going to use a few awesome things. So I have 2 pieces of the basic white cardstock, and these are cut at 7/8 of an inch wide and 5 3/8 of an inch long. And then I ran them through my cut and emboss machine with the amazing and gorgeous Brick Mortar 3D embossing folder that Stampin' Up has. I love that folder. I use it all the time. It's definitely a favorite. We're going to attach those to the sides of our card. I am going to use my handy dandy, most trusted and brand new package of Tombow liquid glue because I go through this stuff, oops, very quickly. It's oozing out a little. There must have been a bubble in there waiting for me to open it. With the Tombow liquid glue, less is more. So this little bubble here is not going to work for me. So I'm just going to grab some scrap here and just scooch that excess off because that excess is going to make a mess if I left it there. So these I can attach to the sides. I like my brick to be facing Like the brick is the part that's embossed, and the mortar is the part that's debossed, rather than the other way around. You can do it the other way around if your mortar is, if you have mortar on your brick that's kind of oozing out the sides of your brick, that's a thing. So those fit nice and tidy with just the slightest little edge on the edge. It's hard to see because of the white on white. And then we can take our, I have a piece of shaded spruce cardstock from Stampin' Up. This measures 2 3/8 wide by 5.5 inches long. And I'm going to attach to that this gorgeous, oh, it's so beautiful. This is the Forever Greenery Designer Series paper. So you've got 2 sides to choose from. I'm going with this side. I love the variation of the blue greens and the yellow greens mixed together. It's so pretty. This one is measured at, let me just double check, 2¼ inches by 5 3/8 of an inch. So just a little bit smaller, just a 1/8 of an inch smaller than the shaded spruce. So we're going to attach those together. And this paper, some of the papers in this pack of paper, the Designer Series paper, go like they coordinate with so many greens. Like this one, because it has some blue greens in there and some greens that are a little more on the yellow side, those all like it goes well with Old Olive and Shaded Spruce and Pretty Peacock and Pear Pizzazz and Granny Apple Green. So many greens work well with this paper. It's awesome. So then this I'm going to attach to the front panel of my card. And it's just a tiny touch wider than the card, which is nice because it will hide those score lines that are showing on the front. So pretty. I really like this card. I like this paper. Okay. So then we can carry on and we're going to do some stamping. So the sentiment that I chose for this card is from the So Sentimental stamp set from Stampin' Up. So I used the Wishing You Much Happiness Today and Always. I like this particular sentiment because it fits with so many different occasions. So I love that. Okay, so I have pre-cut with my cut and emboss machine a piece of basic white, that's backwards, basic white cardstock. And this is cut using the Stitch Shapes framelit dies, or Stitch Shapes dies. It's hard to say, Stitch Shapes. Say that 5 times fast. Stitch Shapes. And this is, I believe, the largest circle. So it's a 3-inch circle. So any stamp that fits within that circle would obviously work well for this card. So I'm going to stamp that. So I have the stamp mounted on my block already. I'm going to stamp that with Granny Apple Green, a lovely, lovely shade of green. It's a cheerful green, I think. So that can just stamp right in the middle. Stamps so beautifully. And then I want to add some linen thread, some loops of linen thread to the back of that stitched circle. So to do that, I can take my linen thread, and if you had a kit from me, I gave you about 21 inches of linen thread. So I'm just going to measure that out because I know that works. So I'll measure out 21 inches for myself. And I'm going to take a dimensional. I have a pack of dimensionals. This is actually from a paper pumpkin kit. That's why it's a weird size. And they're a little thicker, the paper pumpkin ones, but that's okay. As long as I use the same width for my project, then it's not going to be a problem that it's thicker. So I can create loops by sticking my linen thread down on that the glue or this the dimensional that I peeled the backing off. I can just loop it and vary the size of my loops and maybe rearrange kind of the angle if I want. My loops are a little wonky because here's a trick for you. My thread, when it comes off the spool, it comes off all crinkly and not straight. So I can take it between my finger and my thumbnail like that and just slide my thumbnail across, and it will kind of act like a curling iron, if you will, or a straightener, not a curling iron. I want to straighten it, not curl it. But now when I loop it, I get nice smooth loops. It took out all those weird kinks. All right, I have more than I need, but that's okay. I'll just tuck the end around out of the way. So there's my loops that I can put on the back of my circle. So then I can take those loops, flip them over on my hand here, and then attach them to the back of my circle in the way that I want them to be. So I'm going to have mine, I think right about there feels good. And then I can flip that over and attach dimensionals of the same height. So I'll use the same pack. If I used other dimensionals, they would be shorter than these because the Stampin' Up! Dimensionals are not as lofty as these paper pumpkin ones. So it just depends. It doesn't really matter. As long as, like I said, you use all the same height underneath, then it will all work out in the end. So then, before I attach this to my card, I want to make sure that I have room for my butterflies. So I have my butterflies cut out. These are new. So new that I have to double check what they're called, and I don't even have, I think they're Butterfly Brilliance, I believe is the name of the bundle. They come with stamps and the dies, 2 sets of dies, one for solid and one for all these beautiful detailed butterflies, and they cut out a whole bunch. They're fabulous. So I just want to make sure that when I position my circle that my butterflies can be on my card but still within the parameters of my card when it's folded down. So I don't want my butterfly wing to stick up the top or out the side because then it won't fit in an envelope. So I need to make sure that it's tucked within those parameters. It's mostly that one. The other butterfly I think he's little enough that there's lots of room. So I'm just going to lay that guy there so that I know how low I need to put my circle, because I do know it is not centered top to bottom. It's centered side to side, but not top to bottom. We'll take off our dimensional backings, hang on to that linen thread and tuck that so that I know it's in the right spot. Nice, lovely. See there? So cute. And then I can attach my beautiful butterflies. This one I'm just going to attach directly. I'm just going to use a glue dot because that's super, super quick and easy. And he's got lots of room under his little body there. So he can go right down there. And this guy, I want him overlapping my sentiment a bit. So I want to put a little dimensional underneath his body so that he's not hanging down and pressing everything down. So I'll use the same dimensional height because if I use, again, if I use other dimensionals, the Stampin' Up! Dimensionals compared to the Paper Pumpkin dimensionals, the Stampin' Up! Ones are not quite as lofty as these. So because I started with these, I need to carry on so that the height is the same. So I just trimmed one of those little dimensionals, well, big dimensionals down a bit and pop that on underneath. I can even add just a teeny tad of glue to the tail if I want that tail to stick down onto my circle. So then I can make sure, again, my wings are within the parameters. And there she goes. Cheerful, cheerful butterfly. They're so pretty. And last, we're almost done, but last we need to add some of these matte black dots. So I just have 3 little matte black dots, which I put somewhere. There they are. Mine have been, I've cut them up so I can use them for a variety of things and in kits and stuff. So I'm going to put one black, large one down there and another large one up here. And then there's the small ones too. I'm going to pop a small one down here with this larger one, like that. And that, my friends, is a completed card. So it's really quick once you know the cutting. That part went really fast. I was really surprised by that. And then the decorating is just up to you, but that's our card for today.